all webinar attendees are muted at the start to ensure sound quality. We ask that you share your comments or you ask any questions by using the Q&A feature below. And we also want to maximize your webinar experience. So you don't need to be an expert. We're all here to learn, and we welcome your questions and your insights. Please get comfortable and engage with us. And throughout the program, please be considering ways that an AmeriCorps VISTA can support your work. So for the agenda today, we're going to have Ajia and Marquita lead us with setting the stage, the panel discussion, an audience Q&A, upcoming webinars, and closing remarks. Now I will turn it over to Ajia Caldwell, who will be leading today's discussion.
Thanks, Noya. Hello, everyone. My name is Ajia. I am the Media and Marketing VISTA for the Collaborative, and I'm glad that you all could join us. So today's discussion will be focused on the VISTA component of AmeriCorps. So today you will leave with an understanding of what AmeriCorps VISTA is and how your organization and others can get involved. We're going to start the program with a poll to get a better understanding of who we have on the call today. Please take a moment to answer the question on your screen. So how familiar are you with AmeriCorps VISTA? I am not familiar at all with this program. I've heard of AmeriCorps. I have a general understanding of it. I'm an AmeriCorps VISTA alum. I have hosted and managed an AmeriCorps VISTA. And if your answer is other, please share more in the chat box. We're going to give everyone a few moments to let the answers come in. And then we'll be closing the poll. Okay, thank you for sharing. So it looks like most of you have at least heard of AmeriCorps VISTA. So now let's get started with our discussion with the Collaborative's Executive Director, Marquita Robertson. So can you share a little bit about your organization, Marquita, and your involvement in AmeriCorps?
Hi, everyone. Most of you all are familiar with me, and I'm familiar with you. So thank you all for getting on the call. And I'm super excited to talk with you guys about one of my favorite programs that the Collaborative hosts, and that's the AmeriCorps VISTA program. The Collaborative does a host of different things and initiatives to support our overall mission to address wealth inequities and providing North Carolina nonprofits with a full-time paid VISTA for a year has been the most impactful. Last year, our VISTA supported 1,100 adults in a job placement in North Carolina. We worked with 839 youth, and we managed more than 1,200 additional community volunteers. And these are just a few of the numbers. And on your screen, you see organizations hosting VISTAs, and these are some organizations over the past years that have hosted VISTAs. There are some that have VISTAs now that are not up there, and all these organizations represent the state of North Carolina. They're all North Carolina nonprofits. So this diagram illustrates how we support nonprofits in hosting a VISTA. As you can see, VISTA falls under AmeriCorps, and the Collaborative plays an intermediary role for sponsoring organization role. And we coordinate with the regional office to handle the VISTA application, the program, the grant administration for our organizations. Our member organizations that bring on VISTAs are called VISTA subsites, and you'll see where that is on the diagram as well. The subsite supervisor is the person at your organization that would be managing the VISTA.
So what is a VISTA?
So VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to America. It is a mission-driven program designed to build capacity in nonprofits and communities working with low-income individuals and families. The core principles center around moving communities out of poverty rather than making poverty more tolerable through short-term services and solutions. And this is by engaging in the planning, development, and implementation of new projects.
Okay, so you mentioned that VISTAs build capacity. What exactly does that mean?
Yes, VISTAs build capacity, and you'll hear me saying that a lot when I talk about VISTAs. VISTAS can research and apply for new funding sources like grants or in-kind donations. They can recruit and train long-term community volunteers, establish and cultivate new partnerships with donors, the media, community stakeholders, design and implement databases to track donors and volunteers, create templates for outreach, event planning, and a host of other things. VISTAs do not do direct service. Bringing on a VISTA is not hiring a receptionist or an assistant. In other words, you can't bring on a VISTA to be a receptionist, but you can bring on a VISTA to build a program, develop a plan, and write grants. VISTAs are also not intended to replace current employees. If you need an employee, you need an employee. But if you want someone to build capacity at your organization, then that is definitely something that a VISTA can do. VISTAs don't do counseling or coaching, but they can build capacity for your counseling and coaching programs by improving the efficiency in the processes, helping folks to that are helping folks to manage their credit. They can also do things like assist in researching and launching, helping to launch collaboratives and that sort of thing.
So how have VISTAs served in North Carolina specifically?
VISTAs have been very efficient in addressing challenges like education equity, disaster response, and community development in our state. The numbers at the bottom of this slide represent some of the impact that AmeriCorps has had in North Carolina. And this slide is from 2019, so the numbers are much larger now.
So how do VISTAs themselves benefit from this?
So to serve as a VISTA, if some of you know or familiar with the program, is a great sacrifice. VISTA living allowance is set at the area poverty level and only covers their basic needs. I share this and I stress this for several reasons, as it's important when you're communicating with VISTAs and during the recruitment process, and also for myself and for sub-site supervisors as they're working with and talking with the VISTAs to appreciate the sacrifice that they're making. They show up at our organizations and are serving and doing work, but it's also important to understand that while they're there every day, they aren't paid what the other folks that are there every day are paid. And it's important to keep that in mind and just appreciate and consider their sacrifices. With that said, these are some of the benefits that our VISTAs receive through their service. Some things worth noting are the education award. They also get a healthcare benefit, and they also get a non-competitive advantage for federal jobs after serving. And we also hope that through service at your organization, that they're also connected with folks in the community that can support them as they transition out of VISTA. The VISTAs that we work with, I am very intentional in working with them and helping them to make sure that they have what they need for life after VISTA, that I have conversations with them about what they want to do. And this is something that we encourage our sub-site supervisors to do as well.
So what are the eligibility requirements for an organization interested in hosting an AmeriCorps VISTA?
So this is the number one question we get. In short, any nonprofit in our state that supports low-income families, moving them out of poverty, has an anti-poverty focus. As long as the VISTA is being brought on to build capacity in that organization, they're eligible to participate in the program.
What are the expectations of nonprofits interested in hosting an AmeriCorps VISTA?
So VISTAs need the support and the guidance of their supervisors. Every VISTA is different. Some will be from down the street and local, and some will come from across the country. And if they're new to the area, they're going to need support in learning the area. And if they're new to organization, like if you're new to an organization, they'll need some support getting acclimated to the organization. The quality of support and that you invest in them largely determines the success of their service experience and what you get from them. Participating organizations handle the VISTA onboarding, or what we call OSOT, which is orientation and training. The sites provide workspace, supplies, and equipment for the VISTA, and that includes laptops, printers, anything like that that the VISTA would use. Just as an employee, if they would come in, you wouldn't expect them to bring in their own laptop. And so you as a site supervisor would do that. Supervising the VISTA and providing guidance, support, and coaching. VISTAs are sacrificing and serving and volunteering at your organization. And in turn, it's important that you, provide what they need as in terms of support as them moving along after VISTA. And it is, things like recommendations after they leave, advice on what they're going to do next. But VISTAs value this, especially our VISTAs are usually recent graduates, and this is maybe one of their first opportunities to work in this space. They appreciate the guidance and the mentoring that their site supervisors give them.
Thank you for that. So we're going to take another poll to learn more about the needs of your organization. So please take a moment to answer the question on your screen. It reads, what support do you anticipate needing to host an AmeriCorps VISTA? Getting started, managing another individual, finding space for another individual, executing knowledge transfer? And if your answer is other, please share in the chat. We're going to give people a few moments to share their answers. And then we'll be closing the poll soon. Okay, thank you for sharing. So it looks like majority of you will need help with getting started. I see some for finding a space and also executing knowledge transfer. So Marquita, how does the collaborative support sites in bringing on a VISTA?
So the collaborative is your partner through this process. We look very much like a staffing agency for VISTA. We handle all the administration of the program from start to finish, as illustrated in that diagram at the beginning of the webinar. We provide support with training and orienting the VISTAs to the program. We provide professional development opportunities and support for VISTAs. We secure resources for smooth transition and execution. We manage the payroll information for them. We assist with recruiting. And I'm going to pause there, is that, there's been some challenges in general in this climate with recruiting, and that has not missed VISTA. And so if this were something that you were interested in, we would need your support and your engagement in recruiting. We do some recruiting on our own, but it's also helpful for you guys to tap into your networks and your resources to promote this opportunity as well. We also perform annual monitoring or site visits, and those in the past 2 years have been virtual. And we also provide timelines for our partners so you can understand what the VISTAs are doing with us. We're also responsive to your needs when things come up. We are available to support you through things, and we also work with the VISTAs to support VISTAs through things.
So what does hosting a VISTA look like during COVID-19?
So like everything, VISTA is a little different since 2020. Before 2020, VISTAs were on site. They did not have the flexibility to teleserve. Now they are teleserving, and they're really following the policies or whatever your site is doing. If your site is working remote, the VISTA works remote. If your site is in the office, your VISTA is in the office. If your site has a vaccine mandate, that would also extend to the VISTA as well. So whatever your site is doing is what the VISTA would be doing. If this VISTA is working remote, you still need to provide resources for them to work remote, i.e. a laptop. If you need them to print, you need to provide them with a printer and that sort of thing to work from home. It's also, as you know, if you are working from home, that it is not as easy to communicate or to interact or engage with your peers and your colleagues or your reports when you're working from home. So you'll need to be more hands-on and intentional with that.
So what is the typical timeline for bringing on a VISTA?
So the typical VISTA cycle starts in spring with recruitment, and that's where we are now. The summer is when VISTA begins, In the fall is when we start our professional development and training with the VISTAs. In the winter, we prepare for the upcoming VISTA cycle.
Okay, so let's say that someone is interested in hosting a VISTA. What are their next steps?
So the next steps would be to schedule a consultation with me. When we send the follow-up email, there'll be a link in there for you guys to do that. All sites sign a memorandum of understanding to secure VISTA, and each site contributes a cost share. And that cost share is not a portion of the VISTA salary, but is literally a cost share that covers the administration and application of the grant, and also a part of the larger cost share that we pay to the federal grantor to be part of the program. We do recruiting, we develop a VAD, and the VAD is a VISTA assignment description. It is a very, very detailed, I guess, job description. It outlines the goals and the things that you would want your VISTA to do, and then also identifies activities or supporting things that the VISTAs would do. And we also provide training for our supervisors and training for the VISTAs. We also, then the VISTAs start, we work with your staff ahead of the start, and we also support you in creating an orientation to introduce your VISTAs to the staff. And during VISTA service, you're expected to supervise the VISTA on site, and we work with them for onboarding and professional development as well.
Thank you. So that was a great discussion. That was a lot of information. So now we're going to take a few questions from our audience. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. But we're going to start with some questions that were submitted during registration. So Marquita, how competitive is the process?
So the process isn't competitive at all. Next steps would be for us to talk one-on-one about your organization and the projects you think that the VISTA would be contributing to. And if it makes sense, if it sounds good for you, there is likely an opportunity for us to move forward for you to bring on a VISTA. And that's really the process. So there are a lot of, I guess, slots for AmeriCorps VISTA nationally and statewide. So it's not a very competitive process, but it's going to take your commitment.
What qualifications and or credentials do VISTAs have?
So we require all of our VISTAs to be college graduates, and certainly some of the goals and objectives that we would have our VISTAs to do would not require a college degree, but we found that there are some skills and things that are afforded not exclusively to individuals that have a 4-year degree, but usually that they have, specifically with desktop publishing like Microsoft Word and understanding how to manage things and work spreadsheets and that sort of thing have been helpful. And if you have someone that doesn't have a college degree, that is something that we can talk about, but I just always want to make sure that the person you're bringing on has the skills that they need to fulfill the job or the opportunity that you're recruiting for.
Someone asked, what is the requirement for my organization to participate?
So the requirement is for you to be a North Carolina nonprofit and have work that is in the space of financial inclusion, financial mobility, asset building, and that sort of thing.
Does the agency have to pay any portion of the volunteer salary?
So the operative word, I guess, would be volunteer and salary. Volunteers do not receive a salary, and so VISTAs are volunteers, and they receive a living allowance or a stipend. And the sites pay a cost share, and it is not really a salary; it is a cost share. The salary and the cost share, the cost share covers the work of our organization on this. It covers the larger cost share, it covers the benefits and that sort of thing. And it's all mashed together. And I don't like to say that it's a portion, but the salary is not something that you would be responsible for. The sites would pay a cost share and all the benefits and living allowance and that sort of thing would come along with that, but not directly correlated.
Someone asked, can AmeriCorps members do housing counseling?
That would be direct service. So they can do housing counseling, but they can help or support a housing counseling program with working on efficiencies, updating or researching better processes, making recommendation, doing marketing, and that sort of stuff.
Someone also said, I am in rural Eastern North Carolina. Is TA support available in filling out application to host a VISTA?
So while AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, the collaborative handles that application. The only application that our host sites complete would be a short form that gathers information for us to draft the MOU. So in short, when we talk about what the role that the collaborative plays in this, and it's much like a staffing agency, we handle all that administrative stuff. You guys do not have to do that.
Okay. There are no additional questions in the chat. So,
I do see one from Barry.
okay.
Barry Outland. And Barry, are you up here? I think he dipped off. Okay. And this was pretty specific to him about virtual stuff and AmeriCorps. And I'll just echo, before the pandemic, VISTAS, they were not serving virtual. They had to report to a site, but that has changed dramatically. All of our VISTAS are working remote. And so that is different. I'm not sure if that is a permanent change or just something temporary associated with these unique times. So were there any other questions?
I think that is all.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining the call today. Thank you, Ajia, for facilitating and questioning me, interviewing me. You'll all receive a survey to provide some feedback in the coming days. If you're interested in learning more, I will love to hear from you, and just click on that link in the email to schedule some time. As I mentioned, we're in the height of the recruiting season. So if you are at all interested, please be mindful of that, and let's have those conversations sooner rather than later. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.